Hello, this is a presentation on abuse and neglect in children. My name is Amanda Schrader, and I am a nursing student at Indiana State University. Learning objectives. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to define child abuse, understand and recognize the different types of abuse, recognize the signs and symptoms of abuse, understand what to say and how to react when a child shares experiences with you, know who to contact if abuse is suspected, recognize red flags of an abuser, recognize common myths associated with child abuse. At this time, if you'd like to click out of the presentation, there's a pre-test you can take and then resume the presentation. What is child abuse? Child abuse is serious or intentional physical or mental injury, sexual abuse, serious neglect, immediate risk of physical injury, or imminent risk of sexual abuse for those under the age of 18 caused by either a perpetrator or a failure to report an act. 90% of victims know who their abuser is. Oftentimes it's a neighbor, a relative, a friend of the family, a coach, or even a daycare provider. Children don't often tell when they're being abused. A lot of times they're confused about their feelings and feel shame, confusion at the situation, or even guilt. In 2019, in the United States alone, there were 656,243 victims of child abuse. Of those abused, 1,809 died. The most common age of abuse victims are aged 2 to 5 years old. American Indian and Alaska Native children have the highest rate of abuse, although abuse is seen across all ethnicities, races, and socioeconomic classes. Physical abuse. Physical abuse is when a child is purposefully physically injured or put at risk of harm. Physical abuse can include punching, hitting, biting, kicking, beating, throwing, choking, stabbing, or even burning. Discipline is not considered physical abuse as long as it is reasonable and no bodily injury occurs. So spanking does not count as physical abuse as long as there's no bodily injury and it's considered reasonable. Injuries from physical abuse can range from small bruises to fractures all the way to death. Many parents will state that their actions are a form of discipline, but oftentimes it's a form of physical abuse. Signs of physical abuse include unexplained injuries such as black eyes, bite marks, burn marks. Fading bruises can often be present, especially after the child's been home for an extended period of time, such as summer vacation or spring break from school. Another sign of physical abuse is that the child cries when it's time to go home. They may have a change in eating or sleeping habits, may seem anxious, depressed, or withdrawn. Defensive injuries may be present, lacerations may be present, or trauma to the ears. They may appear on alert as if they're waiting for something bad to happen. They may also have inappropriate clothes for the season to cover their injuries, so long sleeves and pants on a really hot summer day. These children may also abuse their own pets or animals. Neglect is another form of abuse. Neglect is a pattern of failing to provide for the child's basic needs, such as shelter, food, supervision, affection, education, hygienic care, or medical care. This is the most common form of abuse. Parent judgment may be impaired to drug or alcohol abuse or even depression. Parent may be physically or mentally unable to care for this child. Signs of neglect include ill-fitting or dirty clothing that may be inappropriate for the season. They may be coming to school in shorts and a tank top that don't fit well and are dirty, and it's the middle of January in Indiana. They have consistent poor hygiene, untreated illnesses or injuries, poor attendance at school. They may beg or steal food. They may lack glasses if they're needed. They may not be up to date on routine immunizations that should have been taken care of, and they may lack dental care. Another sign of neglect is that the child reports no one's at home to provide care for them, and they're frequently unsupervised. Emotional abuse is a pattern of behavior that impairs a child's emotional development, cripples a child's sense of self-worth. It's difficult to prove and includes constant criticism, threats, rejection, bullying, shaming, yelling, belittling, and withholding physical contact, support, or guidance. The emotional abuser may act out violently to loved ones in front of the child, may take their anger out on a parent, sibling, or pet. Signs of emotional abuse include delays in physical or emotional development, signs of depression, unable to develop emotional bonds with others, excessively withdrawn or anxious. This child may be worried that he or she is going to do something wrong. They may exhibit extremes in behaviors, such as they're an extremely passive child or extremely aggressive child. They may act inappropriately, like an adult at all times feeling like they have to take care of other children, or they may appear infantile, where they're thumb sucking or rocking themselves. Sexual abuse is another form of abuse, which includes fondling the genitals, rape, indecent exposure, penetration, and production of pornographic materials. Sexual abuse is often complicated due to the shame or guilt that the child may have. This does not have to include contact. Exposing oneself to a child or exposing the child to sexual material, and that alone is enough to warrant sexual abuse. Signs of sexual abuse include trouble walking or sitting, bleeding, swelling, bruising of the genital areas. Those are all obvious physical signs of sexual abuse. The rest of this list are lesser known signs of sexual abuse. The child may have knowledge of sexual acts that are not age appropriate, strongly avoids a specific person for no apparent reason, runs away from home, not wanting to change clothes in front of others. This child may have nightmares or bedwetting at night, sudden change in appetite. And if the child's under the age of 14 and not sexually active that you're aware of, and they contract an STD, that's a red flag of sexual abuse. What do you need to do if a child comes to you reporting abuse? First, you should listen to what the child has to say, even if what you're hearing is very unsettling or upsetting. Provide support and comfort for the child. Remain calm and remind the child that they are safe. Remind them that they are not in trouble for telling you about their experiences. If you are suspicious that a child is being abused, it is your duty as an adult to say something. Do not approach the accused abuser. Contact 911 or a local protective agency if you suspect abuse. Do not investigate the allegations. That is the job of the police or the caseworker. Even if you're not sure if what the child's telling you is true, you need to assume it is true and let the authorities know and let them investigate it further to see what truth there is behind this. Continue reporting each incident if it's recurring. Um, one incident, is just a snapshot into that family life. So it may be something that the caseworkers decide is a one-time deal. It's not something that they're going to pursue. That's why it's important every time these things reoccur that you continue reporting them so they keep getting more snapshots and can build a case against these families. Mandated reporters are required by law to report any suspected abuse. And mandated reporters include teachers, daycare providers, healthcare providers, and coaches. Red flags. Red flags that you may notice with a guardian, parent, family friend that's interacting with the child that could indicate that they are abusing the child include that they show little concern for the child, blames the child for problems at school or at home, have severe forms of discipline, difficulty controlling emotions, especially anger. Teen parents, family stressors such as loss of a job or divorce, ridicules the child in public, ignores the child's positive behaviors and does not praise them for them, lack of emotional interaction with the child, or substance or alcohol abuse. There are many myths that are associated with abuse. Common myths include it's only abuse if it's violent. That's not true. Emotional abuse or neglect are just as damaging to the child and don't leave any physical marks. Abuse doesn't happen in quote unquote good families and homes. Again, that is a myth. Abuse crosses all economic lines and racial lines. The family may appear like they have a happy, good family and a really nice home and a nice neighborhood, but behind closed doors there could be emotional abuse or physical abuse going on. Most abusers are strangers. That is also a myth. Most are family members or friends of the family, someone that the child knows. Only bad people abuse their child. Again, that's not necessarily true. Many abusers are actually victims of abuse themselves. They don't know how to parent any other way. Some of these people may also have mental health issues that haven't been taken care of, or drug addiction issues. In conclusion, remember that most victims know their abuser. The four main kinds of abuse include physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. If a child confides in you, remain calm and supportive. Immediately report these findings to 911 or your local protective agency. If you suspect abuse, report it. It's up to the police and the local protection agency to investigate and find out if these allegations are true. Do not approach the abuser and keep an eye out for the red flags listed in this presentation. Thank you for watching. If you would like to end the presentation, there's a post test you can take to see how much you learned. Thanks.